All right, okay, so we'll start here. Abe Zenchi. Okay, all right. What's up? Is that okay with you? Okay, good. Glad I was an inconvenience. All right, so we're gonna go over this. Part of your grade is gonna be based on how well you participate with the discussion. Yeah? Okay, good. So with Abe, I don't know. I'll just say Abe Zenchi. Okay.
Oh, I left my roots.
Good, great. Awesome. All right, so with a primary resource, what is a primary resource? Before we get going, before we get started. Paul.
Your first hand, you know?
Yeah, good job. So someone that was actually at the event, right? Good. So with these primary resources, they're very important because you actually get an in-depth look at what actually happened at the event. And with these articles here, these primary resources, these firsthand accounts, there's different perspectives of Pearl Harbor. So I thought a few of these were very interesting. All of them were very interesting. But this one especially, when you get to look at the Japanese side of it. Okay, and this is a pilot. Abe Zenshi, what aircraft carrier did he depart from? Aircraft carrier. So he's the dive bomber, right? Connor. Kaji, yeah, good job. All right, so detail a little bit about this resource here. So as he was getting ready for the day, which is what was the date? Pearl Harbor? Chris?
December 7th.
Yes, good job. December 7th, 1941. And this was, what day of the week was it again? I was going to say Gracie. Olivia. Yeah, it was a Sunday. Good job. Early on a Sunday morning. And describe his first, I guess you could say his first encounters this morning. What was he doing? Talk about his attire, what he put on. Talk about what he did before he left. What did he do? A lot of them had a hand up and they put it down. Why? Why did you put it down? What? What did you have up? Okay, all right, so it was 88 uniform, right? So it was a khaki color, and he was trying to dress in his nicest attire. Right? Because, well, going out on a mission like this, chances are, probably thought he wasn't coming back, right? So with that, you want to try to look his best. Good. Go ahead.
Changed his underwear.
He changed his underwear. Yeah, good job. So I thought that was interesting too. He talked about his underwear. Good catch on that one. Paul?
Be great at it, Brian.
Yeah, good job. So on Yakagi here, the aircraft carrier, they had a shrine where he would praise to, which he would kind of seek some sort of promise from as he's setting out on this mission. So very spiritual, religious, right? And this means of this mission where he probably thought he wasn't going to come back from. All right, good. So that's something important to talk about. So when we get to the Japanese perspective a little bit more, we'll talk about a code that they go by, the Shido Code, which is being a strong warrior, fighting to the very end, never giving up, never surrendering. And that will kind of result toward the end with kamikaze planes as things just weren't working out for them towards the end of the war. So we'll mention about that here soon enough. All right, okay. What else did you describe here about this? What about the takeoff here? What did you say about the night sky, the airplanes up in the sky here? Zach Morris, go ahead. Yeah, right. So he's just kind of taking in the scene a little bit. He was describing a little bit about the night sky and how kind of the lights for the planes. It looked like they're fireflies scattered all across. How many planes were there up in the air? Planes. Paul. 183. Good job. All right. What about his flight in general? What did he describe about his flight? So how did they go about maneuvering in this squadron here? Connor.
Everyone was flying a bit higher than the person in front of us that were spoke through.
Yeah, good job. Good. So he was where? What was he? In the very front or back? Where was he? Awesome.
He's in the very back.
Yeah. What did he describe himself as?
The shepherd.
Yeah, it seems like a shepherd, right? Of the fleet here, kind of overlooking the whole squad. And yeah, they had to fly a little bit above each other because you got to think the smoke trail, this exhaust from these planes, as it would be projected back, right? It would kind of blind. It would really deter your vision as you're flying as well. So they would kind of go in levels back, all the way back, and he was in the very back of that. the squadron. All right, good. All right, what else did he describe here on the event itself? What did he say? What did he say? So he attacked the ship, right? And what ship was that? What ship did he describe? Amelia. Yeah, the Arizona, right? So we've already mentioned about the Arizona already. Okay, we mentioned about the memorial that's still there. The the battleship is underneath the water, so where you can kind of walk out over top and you can look down on the Arizona. Right, towards the end of his perspective here, which we'll talk about here soon, he describes a little bit about his viewpoint right over top of the Arizona. Years later, after Pearl Harbor, he details about when he sees these bubbles popping. Right? Well, let's just get to that part. So, what about the bubbles that were coming? What did he say they were? What did he think they were? And what was his emotion about the event? Katia, that hand? All right. Yeah, good, good. So he regrets the attack, right? He feels a lot of remorse about it, feels terrible about the event. And every time he sees the bubble kind of pop up from the Arizona, he thinks right away that there's some sailors, people trapped underneath the ship. And with the 2,500 Americans that died in this event, knowing that he was a part of this, and he feels terrible about it. Or what did he do to try to, I guess you could say, kind of go about showing his sorrow and his apology to Pearl Harbor? What did he do? Okay, this is years after the event here. And we continue on. Alana? Yeah, what would he drop down on kind of like the area there? What would he drop? What would they drop there? There were two of them that he laid down. Roses, yeah, good job. So you gave him $300 because obviously you can't return every single thing. Huh? I'm pretty sure it's 300. 300. Hey, thanks. Remember we were talking about that yesterday, Mr. Hoover, when you just threw out that you're wrong? Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. So give him $300. So each year he each month, sorry, he lay two roses down, and this will continue on obviously because he can't return every single time to Pearl Harbor. But in any case, this would continue all the way up until this year, his death. Right. Okay. So his perspective here a little bit different, right? You can see how during warfare, right, how this intention, this viewpoint of who the enemy is, really can fuel a fire in you that after the fact, right, he feels a lot of remorse about. What did he say about the Japanese attack here, though? What did he say, which he was really upset by? It totally goes against their code of ethics, their warriors' code. Go ahead, Alex. Yeah, good job, right? So yeah, surprise attack Pearl Harbor, and Japan didn't declare war. He thought that they did, when in all reality they did. And again, this goes against their warriors' code, their fighting code. And this was just a total shock to him. He couldn't believe it, right? And again, bringing out the ugly sides of warfare. So, any other questions here? Any other viewpoint of Abe Zenchi that maybe stuck out? No? Okay, okay. So I thought that was an interesting article. Again, you don't really hear too much about the other side. Okay, you hear about the American perspective a lot, but in any case here, I thought this was interesting. Something to talk about. All right, what do we have next here? What do we have next? Oh, Charles Merdinger. Okay. The Nevada. So obviously he's a what? What is he? It says it right there. Chris? Yes, okay, good job. So he's on the Nevada. And what part of the ship did he really work with? What was he kind of in charge of? What part of the ship? Go ahead, Alana. Okay, yeah, good job. And he was focused on what type of weaponry there? Ship. Paul.
Like the big guns.
Yeah, the artillery, right? So in all reality, were they going to do too much with this aerial attack? Are they going to use artillery to attack these airplanes? No, no. So what did this turn into? What did this section of the ship turn into? Connor. Yeah, command post. Good job. Good job. So yeah, he wanted to make sure that, well, obviously with his artillery cannons, it was hard for him to target out any planes because these cannons are a little bit used for a little bit larger target. And with that, it turned into command posts. So just communication back and forth, how they're going to try to relay these attacks and defend themselves from the Japanese. All right, good. So describe his perspective here. This was interesting. What about right before it here? What was he doing? What did he get? It's like in the first line here. I thought this was interesting, kind of showing about what time it is of the year. Zach Morris.
It's getting ready to decorate the Christmas tree,
Yeah.
little tree.
Oh my gosh, yeah, little trees, getting ready for Christmas. This time of the year where we try to get together and show love, right? Family members. Yeah, all of a sudden this attack hits. Jeez, terrible. Poor guy. So what? He got out of his pajamas. Oh, talk more about that. And what else? What else did he say? Oh. Unfortunately, where this attack was going on, he's getting targeted. Was he trapped? Was he trapped, kind of? Yeah. Was he thinking about it though? Was he thinking about that he was trapped, Chris? Go ahead.
Well, once the USS destroyed, he was aware of that, tried to keep his men alive, tell them how to breathe so that they could conserve oxygen, but then he also had an escape route.
Yeah, okay, good job. But at first he really wasn't thinking of escaping, right? He thought, oh, you know what, we'll keep it calm here, we'll keep it structured. And he was just trying to make sure they keep everybody's head clear. Are you cold or something?
No.
Oh, I got you. Okay, good, good. So yeah, here he was kind of underneath the water here. All of a sudden he sees the water kind of poking through those ankle deep. And he's realizing, oh wow, you know what? Maybe we should probably try to seek the surface. Maybe we should try to get out of this section. Okay. And what did he describe as he was coming up to the surface? What did he say? What did he say? Why? Go ahead.
Like his boat or like,
Yeah, what did he, we'll just kind of break it down.
okay, so there's a lot of smoke down where he was originally, so whenever they got up, and fresh air, he said it was the best air.
Yeah, oh my gosh, right? Because here he was kind of trapped in this chamber, more or less, right? And as he was getting to the surface, he realized, wow, okay, this is something I was in need of, right? What else did he describe as he saw surrounding him?
How horrified he was because of all the flames and stuff, burning ships.
Yeah, good, good. So with the destruction on Pearl Harbor, right? Obviously the oil scattered all across the water surface. So the fire is just everywhere. It's not just on the ship. It's not just on, let's say, the air base that's close by. It's all over the water because the oil is spilling out from the battleships. Okay. And with that, he kind of described it as being like hell on earth. Right? He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Right? And you can only imagine really about how many soldiers, how many Americans, right, were in the water as this was burning up. Okay, yesterday with the perspective we just watched, okay, they described a little bit about how there's a lot of severe burns for these men that were literally in the water because all the oil scattered across, okay, the surface of it. And it just kind of opens your eyes of really the event. And really, there was nowhere to seek refuge. There was nowhere to go. And you jump overboard, all chances are, right, you're going to jump into a fiery mess. And if you go down with the ship, well, you're going to be maybe stuck here like Charles for a little bit. Right? Obviously, you kind of go. But if you're going down the ship, obviously, there's nowhere to go with that. You're going to drown. So, it's one of those things. Where do you go? Where do you go? Where do you look to seek refuge? Chris? You have some man here? Saw your name.
Yeah, I was gonna point out that that when he got out, he also said, "Thank you, God."
Yeah, yeah, kind of showing his religion, showing his hope, his religious background, which I thought was interesting. Good, good. All right. So after the war, what was he known for? What was he known for? What did he? What was some of his accolades, his roles, his statuses? What was it? Go ahead, B. Wow. Yeah. Good job. Good. 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 So yeah, he was a decorated man here, scholar, and he talked a little bit about that towards the end. All right. Good. So next one. Anything else to add to that respect? Charles. Okay. Kay and Frank Tremaine, civilians here. All right. So what do we got going on here? What really stuck out in this perspective? This viewpoint. There's a couple. Oh, go ahead.
Talked a lot about the anxiety of like an invasion, like troops landing in the hills around stuff like that.
Yeah, good job, right? So just with the fear, the paranoia, the event, hearing the bombs dropping at Pearl Harbor, hearing the destruction of it, they thought for sure that there's paratroopers behind it. The Japanese may be attacking in the hills and mountains where they are located. And that, who knows, maybe they get attacked, right? That they need to stay protected. What did they say about even turning on the stove? What did they say about that? Connor, go ahead.
They're scared of fucking on because at the member of the blood, they didn't really fall.
Yeah, good job, right? So any type of light that may have been projected from the house, right? They were in fear that maybe this could lead to an attack there. So they kind of just sat in solidarity, sat in silence. I couldn't imagine doing that, right? In that mass fear. All right, what else here? What else did they say? What else? What about the before the event, the night before? They're kind of at a, I don't know, a party, so to speak. Paul?
It was a very difficult call.
Yeah, good job, right? They're looking out at the sky, nice balmy sky, okay, it's a beautiful sight, a beautiful horizon. And what was said? What was said, which was ironic? Amelia, go ahead. The calm before the storm. Wow. Okay, so you can imagine probably those words then afterwards, but in any case, I think that was kind of a scene setting, the setting of the scene, foreshadowing of what was to occur, what was to happen. All right, good. What else? What else was going on here that really stuck out? Perspectives here. Who do they think was attacking right away? This was, I thought, interesting. Jason? Yeah, they thought it was Germany. They're like, this be the Germans? This be the Nazis? Unbelievable. Now it wasn't. But in any case, you could just see the hysteria, the shock, the fear. And again, this military base way out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Here they thought that nothing could occur out here. Well, this attack, no forever. What else? What else we got? What else? Connor?
I had that they didn't really like talking about it, but they were on like talking about it more as a historic event than an exciting day in their lives.
Yeah, good job. So I thought that was interesting. That was something to note where they're just kind of trying to view it more as an event, more as a shocking display that just occurred right in front of them. They experienced it. Oh, well, move on. What did they do to try to calm their nerves? Gosh, imagine this. I guess this is kind of setting too. December, again, close to Christmas. Matt, eggnog. Oh my gosh, there's over the alcohol. Try to calm their nerves. Anything else we can add to this perspective? Anything else? Chris?
Frank was part of a news station in Huntington.
Yeah, he said he was kind of like the first one. He thought he was the first one to report about the situation, report about the event. All right, good. Anything else that we can maybe ask? Civilians account. So again, a different perspective than what we saw with a U.S. serviceman, and also when it comes to Abe's issue, a little bit different look. All right, okay, last one. Elizabeth McIntosh, reporter, Honolulu Star Bulletin. This one I thought was interesting. What we got? Last one. Who do you want to start off here? Oh, Wyatt, go ahead.
At the end, whenever she wrote about the event, she didn't get the acknowledgement that for writing because she was female until 2012.
Hey, yeah, good. So kind of on the backhand, right, to her reporting, to her story. Yeah, good. Anything else? Billion? Yeah, good job, right? So we kind of talked about this on Wednesday of last week when we mentioned about how this attack occurred. And a lot of people just thought it was just routine, just another train exercise of the U.S. military. Oh, this happens all the time. This can't be an actual attack on a military base. So at first it was kind of disbelief. It's like, yeah, these routines occur all the time. This happens quite a bit. Okay, she heard it over the radio, right? And what did the radio broadcaster say? This is the real McCoy. Oh, so this is a real event. This is not a drill. I thought that for her, as Amelia was saying, she thought it was just a routine. She thought it was just going on. All right, good. What else did she describe? So as she was getting closer to the event itself, what did she say? It was scattered all across the streets. Which is kind of sad and somber to see. Like Connor? Birds. Yeah, the dead birds, right? Concussions from the bombs. Okay, the destruction of the military base concussions from the bombs and the waves that were occurring from killed a lot of the birds that were there. They're laying all across the streets. Pretty sad sight to see. What else did you see scattered across? What else? Usually during Christmas, a lot of people put these up around their house. What are they? Like decorations, right? So there's decorations that were kind of destroyed, kind of scattered across the streets again. No one was really running about. No one was on the streets itself. And seeing the dead birds, the decorations, it was like, what is going on here? It's unbelievable. It's just a total shock. What else? So she did detail a little bit too about the oil right, in the water. She didn't detail about the smoke. She detailed about the rubble of the buildings, how it was all destroyed. Okay. And how she even had somewhat of a similar viewpoint as Zenchi. What did she say? Something similar. Chris? Oh, okay. I thought it was. What did she say towards the end? Go ahead, Kohler. Yeah, good job, right? So she was saying about like how the Arizona and a lot of these other ships, okay, especially the Arizona, 1,000 men being trapped underneath this battleship, bubbles surfacing. She just thought, oh, this is men trapped underneath the ship. And yeah, that's interesting. You know, something to talk about, right? And even still this day, there's actually some like records of oil still dripping out of the battleship, just showing how massive and how large these battleships were and what they actually contained. So that's something good, good. All right, what else? What about towards the end here? Talk a little bit about what they did after the war. Okay, Wyatt already shared with us, until 2012, they really published or really posted about her story. And what else? Parker?
Well, she was at the hospital. And
Yes.
She saw some of the men in the hospital and how they were back.
Yeah, good job, right? So she detailed about the injuries, even some of the dead bodies that were being brought in. She talked about the firemen as well, right? How they were coming in, and a lot of them were just covered head to toe, okay, in different types. So obviously with the oil, some of the smoke, the ash that was covered in their faces, and just the sheer devastation of that. And you can only imagine just watching and seeing all these bodies coming in at one point, at one time, and you just can't soak it in at once. It'll just kind of, cause you to either have a fight or flight response, or you just kind of shrink down. You might just have some sort of shock as you're viewing all of this death and all this paranoia, all this really anarchy. All right, good, good. So with these perspectives, I know some of them, as you're reading through, it's like, wow, this is tough to read. I get it. Okay, but with these firsthand accounts, these primary resources, you can't find a better source to detail about an event, because these are people that were actually there, that actually experienced, okay, what we already talked about here with Pearl Harbor. All right, so is there any questions here on these perspectives? Any questions? So like I mentioned yesterday, okay, we watched a video yesterday about some of the veterans that served and in World War II and fought at Pearl Harbor. Now we just read about other viewpoints, not necessarily all servicemen, not all veterans, okay, but even Japanese perspective. But it's important to hear their stories, okay? Each and every day, we lose many of these veterans of World War II. So if you guys get a chance, look into the understanding of these events through their eyes, through their perspectives. Because each and every day, we lose more and more, unfortunately. All right, so is there any questions? Any questions? Okay, all right, good work on that. Make sure you turn in that assignment. I think there's only 7 questions. Hopefully you answered in detail. That was the goal. All right, next thing. I'm going to attach this here. I'm going to assign this here. What I'd like you to do now is just know a little bit more about the Pacific Theater. Okay. So the Pacific Theater in World War II, understand a little bit more about Southeast Asia and how Japan is looking to imperialize, take over these lands, become more dominant out in this arena, this environment here. All right, so we will focus here shortly on the Philippines. Okay, that's where we're going to move next after Pearl Harbor, as Japan looks to target the Philippines. Why the Philippines? Why the Philippine Islands? Why the Philippines? Go ahead, Connor.
Because it's a very young country.
Yeah, good job, Ryan. So this territory controlled by the United States ever since the Spanish-American War, we occupy it, we use it as a military base to kind of keep eyes on Asia, and also with the help of trade. And we talked about this age of imperialism and how the United States expanded all throughout the Pacific, yeah, even into Southeast Asia. And with their occupied territory, obviously that's going to be a challenge to Japan. They see this as a threat. They see a power, right? An industrial power, a military power, like the US just sitting in their backyard. So their goal is to try to remove it, right? And after Pearl Harbor, we'll talk, Japan actually takes the islands from the US. Okay, the United States will eventually get it back with this island hopping technique, but it won't happen until towards the end of the war. Right, but in any case, right, there are lands here and seas and oceans that I'd like you to know. Obviously, the Pacific Ocean. Then have the Indian Ocean down here. Darn it. Anyway, you guys will detail about that. So I'm going to publish that a while. But before we get there, I do have a bell ringer for you. Yes, a nice bell ringer. What, Alana? What's wrong? Huh? Oh, okay. Okay. So I will publish that here shortly. I do actually have a game for this one too. Hopefully it works. If it doesn't, well, I'll try to find a way to get it unblocked from the powers above. The powers above. All right, so detail a challenge America faced after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Describe obstacles the U.S. had to overcome when getting involved in World War II. So think about it here. The United States, right after the Roaring Twenties, they went through this time span, period of time, where things were not good. Right, so detail about that. I also mentioned about the military, right? U.S. Were we prepared for this war? Well, detail about that as well. And also mention about the two environments. It's not just one area where we're fighting. There's many locations where the U.S. has to assert its authority, its military conquest, so to speak. There you go. All right, okay. So detailed challenge America had to face after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. So beforehand, what was the U.S. going through? What were they going through for a long period of time here? Actually, Paul, the Great Depression, good job. So our industries and factories were shut down. Our hope, our way of life was kind of altered and dwindling. And with this, we talked about the Neutrality Acts, how Congress was trying to keep us out of this war as long as possible. But ramping up into 1940, 1941, now chances of us entering this war was starting to elevate, starting to rise, as Germany was rampaging all throughout Europe. Japan is taking over large chunks of land in Southeast Asia. So with that, we try to prepare ourselves with the Selective Service Act. We talked a little bit about that. We also mentioned about the Lend-Lease Act, which finally allowed the United States to trade with these countries that are being attacked by aggressive countries like the Axis powers. So helping out China, Great Britain, Soviet Union, things are starting to look like we're maybe getting involved. And all of a sudden here, Pearl Harbor happens. Okay. So with that, were we building up our military really? Not so much, no. So yeah, we talked about the Selective Service Act, but we weren't even prepared for World War I. Now you have this long stretch of this Great Depression, right? First of all, it's in the Great Depression, but we weren't building up a military. We didn't think another war was going to happen, just like Great Britain and France. So with that, we weren't prepared whatsoever. And once this attack happened here at Pearl Harbor, where 2,500 Americans died, and our whole Pacific fleet was wiped out, we had to fight not only in the Pacific theater, but also in Europe, right? Also in North Africa. So we have to fight a two-front war from the very beginning of our entrance into the war. So over the Pacific, we'll talk about it. It's going to be island hopping. It's going to be use of battleships, aircraft carriers, right? Airplanes up in the open air, obviously above the water, above these aircraft carriers duking it out, first time ever, right? So this is going to be a difficult terrain, a difficult environment. Storming different types of islands, trying to push out Japan's control in the Pacific and in Southeast Asia. Also, right, we have to fight a ground war mostly, right, in North Africa and in Europe. Okay, so fighting in two different fronts, two different, totally different environments. This is going to be a huge challenge for a military that really wasn't prepared for any of this. But in any case, here, one of the Japanese generals said, "What? What was his famous quote after the bombing of Pearl Harbor? Feels like he is awoken what? Japan has awoken a sleeping what?" Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah.
The sleeping giant. Good job. Any Godzilla fans in here? Love Godzilla. Yeah. You know, Godzilla is supposed to be reference the United States, the sleeping giant, right? This huge monster that's going to come and destroy Japan. Well, that's where you can kind of see its relationship to the United States in World War II. So that's something interesting next time you watch Godzilla. All right, okay. So we're good with that. We talked about the United States entrance in the war. We're going to shift now. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Philippines and how Japan is looking to conquer some of these lands out in the Pacific. Okay, we'll talk about the home front as well in the United States, how that's very similar during World War I, but a little bit different. Okay, as things are getting a little bit more involved with this larger scale war. All right, so here is your assignment. Map of the Pacific, 1942. So what I'd like you to do is label the map and then also try to color in the land controlled by Japan in red. Right, so as you can see, the map here, right, what Japan is controlled by 1942 in red. So obviously here's Japan, you can color that in red, but they also move into the Korean Peninsula, into Manchuria, into China, right? Right here in modern day Vietnam. They move all the way into the Philippines, right? So you can mention about how they expanded so far, so quick by 1942, this imperialistic nature. All right, so that's what I'm looking for with the assignment. Have this done, I guess tomorrow. Okay, next week we'll have a quiz on this. So I'm thinking maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe next week, have a quiz on the map of the Pacific. All right, so real quick, I did attach a game for you as well, just like the game for Europe. Hopefully it works for you. If not, let me know. I'll try to get that figured out. Let me publish this a while for you. I think I already did. Yep, so you guys know the drill. 100% fastest time, you get an extra credit point on the quiz. You got to take a screenshot of it, though. You got to let me know. Can't just use the oath here. All right, see what we got here. Okinawa. China, Japan. So sure. We'll see. Guam? Yes, okay, good. All right. Taiwan. Oh, I don't have that one labeled on the map. You guys should know where that's at, especially for current events. So Taiwan is that small island right off the coast of China. Yes, I think it's there. So right here, this small island, you guys see it on your map. That is Taiwan. So if you just want to label that Taiwan, that'd be great, since there's a lot of action going on there. Okay, we'll mention that towards the end of World War II. Why Taiwan is, there. Okay, who occupies this island? Okay, and what the controversy is over this island of Taiwan. All right, so make sure you just label that. Just put like an arrow towards it and just say Taiwan. All right, there you go. So I'll give you some time, work on that. You have a few minutes.